These former admissions officers have been asked to evaluate this IvyWise student's college application. They'll share both the profile and essays so you can see what it takes to get admitted.
Hello, my name is Christine, and I'm a college admissions counselor with IvyWise. I'm also a former admissions counselor at Boston University, and during my time at BU, I read approximately 1,500 to 2,000 applications each year for all 10 of BU's different undergraduate schools and colleges. So, ranged from a lot of different student profiles, everything from arts and sciences to engineering, business, health science, communication, hospitality, fine arts. And I was primarily responsible for applicants applying from the state of Colorado, the state of Connecticut, as well as Long Island, New York. And I'm excited today to dive into our applicant who's interested in pre-medicine. Definitely saw a lot of pre-med apps during my time as well.
Hello, folks. My name is Kayon. I'm a counselor here at IvyWise, and most recently, I was in the admissions office at MIT, right, reading their undergraduate and transfer applications. However, I started my career at the University of Rochester, where we have multiple different programs in the biological sciences, including our REMS, which is a BSMD 8-year program, as well as HEAL, or Epidemiology BA-MS, that I led for that school. So happy to chat with you about the path to medical school and what that could look like for you.
Hi, my name is Katie, and I am a college admissions counselor with IvyWise, as well as a former admissions counselor at MIT, where I worked very closely with the Educational Council, which is what MIT calls their alumni interviewers. And also, while at MIT, I read applications from all over the world, specialized in students from California, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Nepal, Vietnam, and Stuyvesant High School in New York. And after MIT, I worked as a director of college and school counseling at a private independent school in Boston. And I've been working with students and families through IvyWise for just over 7 years. For me, working at MIT, it was really hard to say no to so many students in the application process day after day. And in my work with IvyWise, I love getting to know students on a deeper level and being really part of their team, helping them to explore their interests and discover their passions. Ultimately, one of my favorite parts of the process is helping students to find the connections between their different experiences and interests when it comes time to draft their essays and tell their stories in the application process, and really find some of those threads that pull all of their different experiences together.
So the student that we're highlighting today is specifically interested in pre-medicine. And I think something important to note about students interested in pre-medicine is it's often a track rather than a major at many colleges and universities in the US. And you can actually study almost any major and still be considered pre-med as long as you're fulfilling all of your graduation requirements for your university, as well as all of the requirements to apply to medical school. Pre-medicine is often one of the most competitive programs, so we'll talk a little bit more about that today. And although I mentioned you can pursue almost any major and still be pre-medicine, the most popular majors for pre-med students tend to be in STEM and the biological sciences. So let's kind of give a high level of our student today, and then I'll turn it over to Kayon and Katie to dive a little bit deeper into their thoughts on working with pre-med students as well. So as you can see, our student today has a school GPA of a 3.92. This student received mostly A's, with the exception of a few accelerated math and English courses where the student received A minuses. Regardless of what major you're pursuing in college, the transcript is usually the most important piece of the application. It's where the admissions counselor is going to spend the most amount of their time. And for students interested in pre-med, generally, admissions counselors will be looking to see that you've taken advantage and done well in rigorous courses that are available to you in your high school, particularly in the science and math subject areas. So looking at this student's relevant coursework, they've taken advanced biology, specifically evolution and anatomy, They have an independent science research class that they're in. They're taking bioethics, Latin American history and culture, advanced Spanish, and advanced French. Here I'll just call out, we don't see any AP or honors level classes that are noted on the profile, and that's likely because they're not offered at their high school. So when a college admissions counselor reviews your transcript, they'll be looking at your school profile and really look at you within the context of your high school and the context of your curriculum. So I'm guessing that in lieu of AP or IB level courses, advanced is likely the most rigorous classes offered, but your counselor will do a deep dive into that when they're reviewing your application. Also, looking at standardized testing, this student is submitting an ACT composite score of a 35 out of 36, so a very strong standardized test score. And then looking at the different subject areas, a 34 in math, a 35 in English, a 36 in reading, and a 36 in science. And their top 3 schools that they're hoping to gain admission to are Stanford University, the University of Texas at Austin, and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So now I would love to turn it over to Kayon and Katie just to discuss anything that stands out to you with this student's profile, or just general advice you have for students interested in pre-medicine.
What I love about this student's profile is how she has really sought courses in things like the advanced biology, independent science research. I feel like she's taken a really good advantage of some of these specialized courses that are available at her high school. Not every high school offers independent science research, but if you do have a class in bioethics and you are someone who's interested in the pre-med track, that is something that's really great to be able to take advantage of. As you will see in the next couple of slides, and as we get into the students' essays as well, I'm loving the advanced Spanish and the advanced French. Often not something you see for a student that's interested in pre-med, but when we look at this student's overall narrative, that will start to make sense. And we'll see that even on the next slide as we get into her extracurriculars.
Exactly, Katie. One student that I most recently worked with that joined wanting to be pre-med is a Spanish major. They're a Spanish and biology double major with the hopes of working in Latin American clinics. And so it's a very big piece of their profile here. But I wanted to give folks a peek behind the curtain. Christine, you mentioned that it is a very competitive landscape when you say you would love to enter medical school, and that starts even at the undergraduate level. And so ultimately, my colleagues and I will need to really be in the weeds trying to understand which students are going to gain very limited seats. We have so many fantastic students, but ultimately the laws of physics prohibit us from admitting them all since we need to fit them into our classroom and dorms. So I might note a few things that I'd love to better understand as we go through the transcript. So I'm looking at this testing and I see a strong composite score, but I'm like, oh, interesting, that math score is perhaps a little weaker. And I don't see an immediate relevant coursework within that advanced math. Is that an area of opportunity for the student, or just something that I need to dive a little bit deeper into? So I'm really, putting on my spectacles and jumping right into this transcript as we try to understand and looking at the extracurriculars and the letters to understand the question that I have lingering in the back of my mind here. But I'd love to learn more and see what the student is definitely up to as they are moving through their high school experience.
So let's do just that and take a peek into their extracurricular activities.
So as I was mentioning, it was interesting that this student decided to take advanced French, advanced Spanish, but then you see her activities and there's so many Spanish speaking and world language opportunities that she's been pursuing within her extracurriculars. What I do want to call out right away that really jumps out to me and I love to see as an admissions officer is both the depth with which she has gone into things. So looking specifically at the clinical and research internship that she's done at the Transplant Institute and the School of Medicine at NYU. That is 9th through 12th grade. Like that is a lot of time that she's spent working within those environments and a lot of in-depth experience. Fantastic. really hard to get an internship that lasts 4 years in a med school. So props to this student. But then some really nice other kind of pre-med exposure and experiences that she fits in around these over summer experiences, working on, co-authoring the paper, the clinical gene therapy company that she worked or did an internship for over the summer. So there's a lot of fantastic pre-med things that she has taken time to explore during high school. Kayon, what are some of the things that jump out to you from her extracurricular profile?
I think you're right, Katie. 4 years of sustained engagement with biology and research is fantastic, and something that not many folks have access to. And for medical school, this is incredibly important. Having access to the field, getting a feel for what it feels like to be around blood. I'll say that. Like, you don't want to find out you faint at the site on the first day of med school. So having exposure to this really lets her speak to her interests because it's been developed and gained throughout the years. But one thing I want to make sure we're not overlooking here is this leadership opportunity I'm seeing on the dance team. She is a student who's, of course, very academically driven and is engaging with her interests, but she is able to then connect on a team level to lead her peers. That's something that we're always excited to see, because the extracurriculars are telling me about your interests, but then also how you work with others and how you show up on campus in general. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to dance team and let folks know it doesn't always have to be a 4-year bio internship, that there's other things that we're really going to draw out from this section. I don't know if you were thinking about that too, Christine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at this list, the student is very impressive. As we mentioned, having the clinical and research experience. I think one that particularly jumped out to me was that she was the only high schooler on a 4-person team as a project facilitator, genome sequence research at UPenn School of Medicine. To have this opportunity as a high schooler, is very profound, and I'm excited to see how she's able to bring some of these extracurricular activities into her essays and really highlight, more detail around some of the work that she's doing and the impact that she's had. And then I think another one to call out would be the Model Congress Club. So, not only does she have this great medical type experience, but she's also writing bills on organ donations, thinking about healthcare policy and rehabilitation access. So she's really, going above and beyond what we see a typical kind of high school student do. So these are just, and that was a 4-year commitment. So, certainly an impressive applicant that any college would be lucky to have. But I'm excited to, as we move into supplements, to learn a little bit more about some of these initiatives.
Don't miss part 2 to watch our former admissions officers evaluate this student's college essays.